The illusion of time. Time is not what we think. Every second that ticks on a clock, every sunrise and sunset, every heartbeat we feel is not proof of an absolute flow, but evidence of a perception constructed by consciousness within a universe indifferent to temporal direction. At the microscopic level, fundamental laws are symmetric. Particles collide, interact, and transform without preference for forward or backward progression. Electrons and positrons in Feynman's interpretation are two sides of the same coin. One may mathematically move backward in time while we perceive it moving forward. The era of time that dictates the cooling of coffee, the aging of living beings, or the expansion of stars emerges statistically, born from entropy and the probabilistic outcomes of countless micro-interactions, not from a fundamental law enforcing progression. Humans interpret sequences of events as a now moving from past to future, but the universe itself does not move. What we call the present is a construct, an emergent feature of consciousness interpreting correlations among events. Memory encodes the past, anticipation imagines the future, and observation collapses probabilities into definite outcomes, producing a sensation of flow that does not exist in the underlying reality. At cosmic scales, relativity shows time is flexible. Two observers in motion relative to each other experience different durations between the same events. Simultaneity is relative. The sequence of events depends on perspective. Time is a coordinate, a mathematical dimension, not a universal river. At the quantum scale, particles explore all possible paths between points. The path integral formulation sums these trajectories, some of which effectively run backward in time. Only when interactions are observed does the universe settle into specific outcomes, giving the appearance of causal progression. Entropy, the measure of disorder, drives the statistical arrow we experience, not a law of flow. Ice melts, stars burn, memories form, and histories unfold, yet at the base level, fundamental interactions are reversible. The universe is a complex network of correlations, patterns, and probabilities. Consciousness navigates this network, interpreting sequences as time. The block universe model takes this further. Past, present, and future coexist in a four-dimensional structure. Events do not unfold, they are embedded. The flow we experience is a cognitive tracing along paths within this structure. Feynman emphasized clarity. The equations describe correlations and amplitudes, not subjective sensations. Determinism at the microscopic level is probabilistic. Causality is statistical. The macroscopic world emerges from these countless interactions. From this perspective, time is emergent, not fundamental, flowing not from the universe but from observers interacting with it. Human intuition about cause and effect, past and future, and the irreversible flow of seconds is a byproduct of memory, observation, and entropy. Reality is far stranger than perception. What seems obvious flow, sequence, inevitability is an illusion built on statistical inevitability, cognitive interpretation, and emergent macroscopic order. Consciousness creates narrative connecting events into linear experience, yet the universe itself remains indifferent to direction, sequence, or flow. Time reversal and the microscopic world. If time is not fundamental, then what drives the sequences we observe? At the quantum level, particles exhibit behavior that defies common sense. Electrons, positrons, and other fundamental particles do not strictly move forward in a timeline. Feynman's diagrams illustrate that positrons can be interpreted as electrons moving backward in time. In a collision or decay, multiple possible histories exist simultaneously. The universe contains all potential paths until interaction selects a definite outcome. Observation collapses possibilities into reality, producing the sensation of sequential events. Yet underlying this, time symmetry dominates. Interactions at microscopic scales do not favor forward progression, they are reversible. The macroscopic arrow emerges statistically. Entropy, the gradual increase of disorder, explains why we never see shattered cups spontaneously reassemble, why ice melts, why stars burn, why life ages. The laws themselves are indifferent, yet the accumulation of countless micro-interactions produces a pattern we interpret as irreversible. Consciousness interprets correlations as cause and effect. Memories encode past events, anticipation predicts possible futures. Perception stitches these correlations into a coherent narrative. Human experience interprets this narrative as a flow, but the underlying reality is static, probabilistic, and symmetric. Relativity further dissolves our intuitive notion of time. Two observers moving relative to each other measure different durations for identical events. Simultaneity is relative. The universe does not enforce a single timeline. The flow of seconds is a matter of perspective. Time is a coordinate like space, not an absolute river. The path integral formulation emphasizes this. A particle travels along all possible paths between 2 points. Probabilities sum over trajectories, including those that mathematically move backward. Only measurement collapses this cloud of possibilities into a perceived history. Entropy imposes statistical directionality. Macroscopic events appear irreversible because high probability sequences dominate. Ice melts, coffee cools, stars age, and galaxies expand, but these sequences emerge from countless underlying reversible events. Consciousness interprets sequences as a linear narrative. Memory connects past events. Prediction projects probable futures. The sensation of flow is a construct, an emergent property arising from complex interactions between observation, cognition, and statistical inevitability. The block universe concept captures this visually past, present, and future for futures probabilities. Legitimacious, the particular means equations of disorder, explains why we never see shattered cups spontaneously reassemble, why ice melts, why stars burn, why life ages. The laws themselves are indifferent, yet the accumulation of countless micro-interactions produces a pattern we interpret as irreversible. Consciousness interprets correlations as cause and effect. Memories encode past events. Anticipation predicts possible futures. Perception stitches these correlations into a coherent narrative. Human experience interprets this narrative as a flow, but the underlying reality is static, probabilistic, and symmetric. Relativity further dissolves our intuitive notion of time. Two observers moving relative to each other measure different durations for identical events. Simultaneity is relative. The universe does not enforce a single timeline. The flow of seconds is a matter of perspective. Time is a coordinate, like space, not an absolute river. The path integral formulation emphasizes this. A particle travels along all possible paths between 2 points. Probabilities sum over trajectories, including those that mathematically move backward. Only measurement collapses this cloud of possibilities into a perceived history. Entropy imposes statistical directionality. Macroscopic events appear irreversible because high probability sequences dominate. Ice melts, coffee cools, stars age, and galaxies expand, but these sequences emerge from countless underlying reversible events. Consciousness interprets sequences as a linear narrative. Memory connects past events. Prediction projects probable futures. The sensation of flow is a construct, an emergent property arising from complex interactions between observation, cognition, and statistical inevitability. The block universe concept captures this visually. Past, present, and future exist in a four-dimensional structure. The universe does not move, it exists. Observers traverse correlations, interpreting patterns as time. Sequence and causality emerge from relational interactions, not from a fundamental arrow. The laws of physics, from quantum electrodynamics to general relativity, describe correlations, interactions, and amplitudes. They do not describe experience. Reality operates in timeless patterns. Experience interprets these patterns as progression. Free will is probabilistic, constrained by correlations among events, not dictated by an intrinsic temporal flow. Microscopic reversibility contrasts sharply with macroscopic irreversibility. Antiparticles move backward. Collisions are symmetric. Quantum amplitudes encode all possible histories. Yet macroscopic order emerges, producing the illusion of flow and causality.
Memory is the scaffold of perceived sequence. Probability and entropy shape the macroscopic world into coherent narratives. Consciousness moves along the statistical landscape, reconstructing sequences as past and future. Observation solidifies past.
But the universe itself contains all possibilities simultaneous.
Solidifier. Powerful freedom race editions solidifier. Resin.
So what?
Underlying reality is a web of correlations, a probabilistic network indifferent to direction, sequence, or experience. Consciousness interprets this web as time. Memory, entropy, observation, and probability construct the arrow, producing experience, narrative, and the illusion of moving through seconds.
Beyond time, consciousness, and the timeless universe.
As we step back from microscopic particles and statistical arrows, the ultimate nature of time becomes even more unsettling. The universe, at its most fundamental, is timeless. Past, present, and future coexist in a four-dimensional block. Events are embedded. They do not unfold. The flow we perceive is entirely a construct of consciousness navigating correlations. Our brains stitch together memory, anticipation, and observation, producing the illusion of linear progression. Feynman's perspective emphasizes that the laws of physics describe probabilities and amplitudes, not subjective sensation. Consciousness interprets static patterns as sequences. The universe itself does not experience the passage of seconds. What we feel as the now is simply the present perspective along a web of correlations. Path integrals, block universe visualizations, and reversible microinteractions all reveal the same truth. Time is emergent. Antiparticles, collisions, and probabilities explore every possible path simultaneously. Macroscopic irreversibility emerges statistically. Entropy, memory, and observation construct a narrative of cause and effect. The arrow of time exists only because consciousness interprets correlations within probabilistic constraints. Imagine a human walking through a glowing four-dimensional lattice. Past, present, and future illuminate around the observer, but nothing moves. Perception constructs linearity, imposing sequence onto a timeless backdrop. Cosmic events, neuron firings, and particle collisions coexist in probability space. Observation collapses possibilities into the narrative we call experience. Memory encodes one path, ignoring others, reinforcing the illusion of temporal flow. On a grand scale, galaxies rotate, stars burn, and black holes warp space-time. But these are statistical sequences emergent from countless interactions, not dictated by a fundamental river of time. Consciousness interprets correlations, perceives entropy-driven patterns, and reconstructs linear histories. Without observers, there is no flow, no sequence, no now. The block universe shows this explicitly. Every event exists timelessly. Causality emerges relationally, and the arrow of time is a cognitive phenomenon. Reality is far stranger than intuition. Determinism is probabilistic, causality is statistical. Observation and memory give rise to perceived sequence. Entropy structures events into coherent patterns, producing the arrow of time. Particles, fields, and probabilities obey symmetric laws. Reversibility dominates at the fundamental scale. The universe is indifferent to forward or backward motion. Consciousness alone selects paths, collapsing probability into perceived history. Human perception interprets static correlations as linear narratives, producing the sense of past, present, and future. Our intuition about cause and effect is a byproduct of cognition, memory, and statistical predominance. Ice melts, coffee cools, stars age, and civilizations rise and fall. All emergent, not fundamental. Feynman's uncomfortable truth is that time is a construct. The flow we cling to, the certainty of sequence, the inevitability of events, none of it exists at the underlying level. The universe is a network of correlations, a timeless probabilistic web. Observation and consciousness produce the arrow, narrative, and experience. Free will, choice, and causality emerge statistically, not fundamentally. Past, present, and future are not sequential, they coexist. Probability and entropy shape macroscopic experience. Memory and observation impose a sense of linearity. The universe itself does not progress, it exists timelessly. Consciousness interprets it as flow. Every tick of a clock, every aging body, every unfolding history is a statistical projection of emergent order, not evidence of a fundamental arrow. Reality is far stranger than perception, far more elegant and counterintuitive than intuition allows. Understanding this changes everything, not just physics, but philosophy, consciousness, and the human experience of life itself. Time is not a river, it is a landscape. We traverse it in perception alone, constructing narrative from static probabilistic structure. Feynman's insight forces us to abandon instinct, embrace symmetry, and accept the timeless nature of the universe. The uncomfortable truth is simple. What we call the flow of time is not a property of the cosmos. It is a product of our minds interpreting it. The universe exists, timeless and indifferent. We move through it, perceiving a story. Yet the story itself is emergent, constructed, and ultimately illusory.